What is a woman? Well, that's a question that the International Olympic Committee in the 2024 Paris Games doesn't seem to know the answer to. In a recent match, Angela Carini from Italy strode out to the stage to face her opponent, Imane Khelif. By the way, this is Imane Khelif from Algeria, a female boxing competitor at the Olympics. Now, if right off the bat you see a problem with this matchup, then congratulations, you have a functioning adult brain. And this match went about as, well, anybody could have expected.
Algeria, Imane Khelif.
Khelif taking the win.
For Italy, Angela Carini.
She's fallen to her knees.
Renegade Online. Well, folks, welcome back. Another great day here at Valliant Renegade. It's good to see everybody out there once again. And if you are like one of the many watching this video, not yet subscribed to this channel, please take a moment and turn that little red subscribe button to gray. Hit that like button, hit that notification bell, share this sucker out on the social medias. And of course, please do leave a comment before you head out the door today. Make sure to join us every Sunday and Wednesday afternoon at 6 p.m. Eastern right here for the live show. It seems perhaps that all it took was a passport saying that this individual right here, Imane Khelif from Algeria, was female for the International Olympic Committee to put this person into the 66-kilogram women's boxing division, who faced off the other day against an Italian opponent, an actual woman named Angela Carini. Now, this picture right here is from a few years ago, but I want you to just take a look at the physical musculature of this individual. Look at the biceps, the shoulders, the musculature around the neck, even the chest. Distinct lack of feminine traits in this one. And that's because this individual was born, by all accounts, including from the International Boxing Association, which barred this person from competing a year or two ago, which, by the way, the International Boxing Association was removed from being the ruling committee at the Olympics for some reason, maybe having to do with their decision here to try to make things right. But this individual was tested by the IBA and found to have an X and Y chromosome genetic signature, which biologically, medically, scientifically is unequivocally male. The issue with Khelif, however, is a little bit different from some of the transgender situations that we see in many sports today. You asking questions about that, just ask Riley Gaines and her issue when she was trying to win swimming championships facing off against biological men. But in this case, Khelif is said to have a particular genetic disorder from birth that causes the malformation of normal genitals, at least in this case of men. But as you can see by the body type that we just showed you, everything about the development of this individual through puberty is visually, unequivocally masculine. And if the last picture didn't do it for you, how about this one? This is also the same individual, Imane Khelif. I don't see a whole lot of feminine traits here. Again, look at the musculature in the legs now, the shoulders, the arms, the biceps, the chest. This is somebody that physically, whether you like it or not, has an inherent and complete advantage over any real female competitor, especially when it comes to a very physically violent sport like boxing. And let's take a look at a still image here of Angela Carini from Italy. Is anybody going to question the genetic composition and the femininity of this individual? No, I don't think so. She belongs in women's boxing at the Olympics. You can be the judge if Miss or Mr. Khelif belongs in the same division as this lady. And no surprise, folks like J.K. Rowling and Riley Gaines are jumping in on this. With this image here, probably worth 1,000 words, at least, maybe even more. But when you look at this, you have to wonder, what is the International Olympic Committee thinking? This is about the safety of female athletes. And even Miss Carini, after the match was over, made a comment that we've heard before in similar situations, that she had never been hit so hard in all of her life. Well, Angela, that's because you were punched in the face by a biological male. The social politics really don't matter when it comes to physicality. That stops at the water's edge. Physicality rules supreme, and men with the same skill level as a similar female in the same sport, well, the men are going to have an unfair advantage and probably win 9 times out of 10 in a situation like that, because somebody like this, a female boxer like Angela Carini, is just not going to be able to hit as hard as somebody like Imane Khelif. And right here, you're going to see the shot to the face, bang, right there, that ended it all. And that was it. At that point, she tagged out Miss Carini because she knew there was probably no chance that she was going to be able to defeat this opponent, at least not safely, at least not without perhaps taking some very serious injuries from this biological, genetic male boxer. And after forfeiting the rest of the fight for her own safety, we see, as expected, the genetic male boxer here is given the victory. Walks off, and Miss Carini, after spending years of her life training to reach this point in the Olympics, knowing that her opponent had an unfair advantage, was, well, leaving. Now, after the International Boxing Association released their own statement on this very fight that took place and how they disagreed that it should have taken place to begin with, because they had disqualified this boxer previously in 2023 at the World Boxing Championships, and the International Olympic Committee responded to the IBA with this, quote, "Every person has the right to practice sport without discrimination. Of course, this seems to preclude actual female boxers trying to compete in a division that was supposedly made expressly for them. All athletes participating in the boxing tournament of the Olympic Games Paris 24 comply with the competition's eligibility and entry regulations, as well as all applicable medical regulations." Well, I have to stop and ask there again as well, what exactly are these criteria? What exactly are the regulations? What measurements did you use to determine whether this individual, Imane Khelif, was actually eligible to participate as a female competitor in the boxing tournament? As with previous Olympic boxing competitions, the gender and age of the athletes are based on their passport. There it is in black and white. That's it. Is that really all the criteria that you have? Because somebody walks in and basically tells you so? The IOC goes on to complain about the International Boxing Association and their decision to remove 2 female or quote-unquote female athletes from the competition in the previous year. This is one of the big reasons, if not the reason, that the IBA was ejected from the International Olympic Committee, because I guess they weren't going along with modern-day 2024 social politics in athletics. The current aggression against these 2 athletes. Now, there is another one. There is another biological male from Taiwan competing in female boxing. But we're not going to get into that one for this story, but the same rules effectively apply. But the IOC says the current aggression against these 2 athletes is based entirely on the IBA's arbitrary decision to not allow these 2 quote-unquote female competitors compete last year in the World Championships. And that arbitrary decision was taken without any proper procedure, especially considering that these athletes have been competing in top-level competition for many years. So in other words, the IOC is upset that the IBA, the International Boxing Association, last year finally corrected a grievous error on the part of boxing by letting these individuals, these 2 biological males, fight women, beat up women in boxing rings with an unfair male physical advantage. And what exactly was the arbitrary decision? Remember, the IBA actually did a blood test, a biological medical test on these individuals, and determined, no, they're guys. They have Y chromosomes. They're XY. That makes them male. They can't compete in this division. Again, they went through actual testing and some type of scientific procedure, whereas the International Olympic Committee, who wanted to make sure that they delivered the message and basically did no testing at all except for looking at their damn passports. Now, the reality is the IOC knows perfectly well that these two competitors, the one from Algeria, Miss Khelif or Mr. Khelif, and the one from Taiwan, they know that these are biological men. They're not walking in the dark here. But the IOC wanted to make a social decision robbing female athletes from their ability to compete fairly against opponents that have an obscene advantage over them. Finally, the IOC says that they are committed to protecting the human rights of all athletes participating in the Olympic Games as per the Olympic Charter. Apparently, those quote-unquote human rights the IOC seems so happy to tout that they're in favor of don't extend to actual female athletes. The bottom line is this, kids. If you are this young lady that has spent years preparing yourself for this moment, and you walk into the ring and see this coming at you, do you honestly believe that this fight is going to be in any way fair? The Olympics have some serious problems, and frankly, I would suggest between this and their completely offensive opening ceremony, it's time to just turn off the television and stop watching. Make sure you're subscribed to Valliant Renegade and join us every Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern for the live show.